This episode of Brains on Games is about a deck building game with a golf theme. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and we're going to talk about a golf game today because it's spring and there's no better time to talk about golf than springtime. I'm not a golfer, but my dad is, and Father's Day is coming, so I'll talk to my dad about a game that is all about golf. It is a deck building game that was sent to me by its creators not too long ago, a game called Duffers. Now, Duffers is a game that you can play in an hour to about 90 minutes. You can play with between 1 and 4 players, so there are rules for a solitaire version if you want to play it that way. And the box says you can play with kids age 14 and up, but I certainly think that younger kids could get the hang of this one. But you are doing math, multiplying or dividing by 2 and adding 3-digit numbers. So as long as their calculation skills are there, they may be able to play this game. Let's take a look at Duffers. Now, Duffers is a deck building game, like I said, and that means that, just like all deck builders, players are going to start with a small number of not very powerful or not very good cards. And in this case, you get 5 cards that say whiff on them, and a whiff will add +1 stroke without adding anything to the yardage of your shot. And you also get 5 of these chip shot cards, which will allow you to move your ball 30 yards closer to the hole, adding 1 stroke, or you can spend it as credits. And that's sort of the first thing to talk about in this game, is that there's 2 uses for all of the cards. You can spend them, like it says right over here, you can spend them as 20 credits for the chip shot cards, or you can use them to move your ball 30 yards closer to the hole while adding 1 stroke to that shot. Deck builders are games where you are trying to buy more and more powerful cards. And at the beginning of Duffers, that is really what you're going to have to do, because there's no way with your little chip shot cards that you're going to be able to finish one of these holes. So in the middle of the table, you're going to have 6 or 9. Like, we played a lot of games with only 3 holes just because we sort of wanted to play as many games as we could to get the hang of it. But you'll have probably 6 or 9 holes that you're going to be working on. They've got different lengths that you'll have to work towards in order to complete them. You've got par 3, par 4, par 5, just like on a regular golf course. So what you're trying to do is get cards in your hand that will add up to these numbers. 175 yards, 630 yards. Not easy to do. And of course, it's not possible to do that with the cards in the deck that you start with. If you manage to hit that number exactly, you can trash a card from your deck. So you can get rid of one of the cards here that's not very powerful, but which might be taking up space in your deck and preventing you from cycling through to the cards that you want. Being able to discard being able to trash cards in deck building games is a super important part of the strategy. There are 2 different marketplaces in this game. One is called the stacks, and these are consistent cards. There's 3 different kinds that you can add to your deck. They're not super great cards, but they might be important to your strategy. This one, for example, the 3-putt putter is one that will add 3 strokes to your shot, but it counts as a putt card. Each hole requires you to play a putt card marked by this letter P in order for you to complete the hole. So you have to have something for your short game, as I'm sure my dad knows, and I would probably need at least 3 shots with a putter in order to, my short game's not very good. Some of the holes have additional requirements. They all require a putter, but this one, for example, the pumpkin patch, it says that you can't use like a 5-wood or a 3-wood. Any card with the wood in the name can't be used to complete this one. This one is an interesting one. The yardage of the first card that you play is doubled. So that's going to allow you to get a lot closer to that 630 yards. So there are different kinds of requirements for each of the holes. Some of them only require a putter, so there's no additional text there, but you're trying to play cards that will add up to that total or a little bit higher if necessary. The second marketplace is one that has better cards, but it is randomized. So there's only going to be a few of these cards out at a time, but these are much better cards than the ones that you get in the stacks. For example, you might have a wooden tee that could add 20 yards but no strokes at all. You might be able to get your hands on a 5-wood. That's not necessarily going to help you on the pumpkin patch hole, but 210 yards or 420 if you double it. That could get you a lot of the way towards the hole. Another thing that you get to do with this card is reveal one of the cards in another deck. So there are going to be a few stacks of cards when you play this game. It sounds way more complicated than it is. Once you've played it even once, you're going to get the hang of it. You've got two marketplaces, the stacks and then the pro shop, the regular place where you're going to get your good equipment. You've also got a stack of these cards called Duffs, and some of the cards in the deck require you to add Duffs to your deck, and the Duffs are cards, bad cards. They've got the red line on them. That means that they're going to increase your strokes or reduce your yardage. Cards like a hook or toad or maybe a slice. These are things that are going to decrease how far your ball is going to go and increase the number of strokes that you're going to use in order to complete the hole. The other stack of cards is the luck deck, and some of the luck is good and some is not so good. For example, someone might sneeze when you're taking your shot, the achoo card, and that would require you to take out of the game a card from your hand. And if it's a low card, if it's less than 40 credits, then you have to take one of those duff cards into your deck. How do you play this game of Duffers? Each player is going to have, you've seen the little player board here, you've got a picture of your caddy, you've got a spot where you put your deck, you've got tokens, and those tokens are going to indicate which holes you've completed. You've got that 10 card starter deck, you're going to draw 5 of them. I'll count out 5 here, and then the rest of the deck goes here. You've got a space for caddy cards. I'll tell you what those are all about in a moment. I've drawn 3 of the chip shot cards and 2 with. So that means that I've got 20 credits for each of the chip shots that I can spend, right? Like I said, you've got this number here that you're going to be paying attention to because you're going to be spending the credits at the beginning to improve your deck so you can get especially putters. You can't finish any of these holes without putters, but 60 credits is not very much. The 3-shot putter is only 50 credits. So I can take that into my deck. It goes in the discard pile. I discard those other cards and then I draw up 5 more. And that's just how that game is going to be played. You cycle through. If you run out of cards in your deck, then you take your discards, you shuffle them up, and they go face down here to replace them. Now you see, I have messed up these little tokens about 50 times today trying to make this video. Eventually, your deck is going to be improved to the point where you've got enough good cards that you might be able to try and tackle one of these holes. And in that case, you're no longer paying attention to those credits. You're playing the cards for yardage. Now, if I drew these 5 cards, I don't know if you can see that one here. I'm going to cover up some of the holes. If I drew these 5 cards, now I've got 240 yards plus, my nice golf balls can add 25. Now I'm suddenly working with, say, 265, 285 yards. If I play just these 2 cards, that's going to give me 240 yards. That's 50 yards over for this one. I've got a putter, so I've met the requirement here as well. There's no penalties where I've got to, I can't use woods or anything like that. Like the pumpkin patch says, I can't use a wood card. So now I can complete this. Great, I get to, if you're the first person to complete the hole, you get the card that's on top, which is one of the equipment cards. So it could be a crew or a special equipment. That's going to go right away into my discard pile. I get to, as the first person to complete the hole, put my little token on there. And what else is going to happen? I also have to, because I played this card, this says I gain a duff card. And that means I draw one of those negative ones from the duff pile into my discards. So look at that. Now I've got a slice, and that's going to subtract 40 yards from my shot. The other thing that's happened here is now that I've put my token out on one of the holes, I get to reveal this letter. The The letter A, that gives me a special ability. Now that the letter A is revealed, once you've completed one hole, what I can do is trash a chip shot. I get double the value, so I'll get 40 credits for it, but it's taken out of my deck and it's put back in the box. It's out of the game now. It's not just discarded, it's trashed. So one of those weaker cards now is out of the game. I got to use it for some credits, those 40 credits, but hopefully I'm going to buy a better card that's going to allow me to complete more of these holes. Eventually, once you've completed 3 holes, you're going to reveal the letter B. Once you've done 6 holes, you reveal the letter C, and that allows you to use the Caddie space. Now, what does that Caddie space do? This is a really neat, I think, a really neat addition to the game. It's a place where instead of playing a card for credits or yards, I'm going to discard it here. I can use it then later. Super important with these putter cards to save them until you've got enough yardage to complete the hole that you want to complete. If I hadn't been able to get my 190, maybe I would have discarded a card here, and then that would give me a putter that I can use on a later turn. Once you reveal the letter C, you can put 2 cards on here, and then you can use them later on. So it's a great place where you can save those cards. After all that, how do you win this game, right? So, well, the way that the game ends, the final round is going to begin when one player has completed the last hole, which means that, I mean, you can complete the holes in any order that you want, but when one player has a token on all of them, the other players get one more turn to wrap things up, and then that's it. You start scoring. Now, what you're doing is you're adding up the number of strokes that it took for you to finish each of the holes, and the person with the lowest number of strokes is going to be the winner. As you play, that means that you're going to be filling in this special golf scorecard as you go. So the hole that I finished, that means, look at that. So the hole that I finished, it took me 3 strokes to finish that hole, as long as I didn't have any duffs or anything that were played at the same time, which, as you saw, I did not. So there's +1 strokes for the wood, there's 2 strokes for the putt, and then that wraps things up. So I've got, in fact, that was par for the hole, 3 strokes. Perfect. I got par on that one. Anyway, you add up all the number of strokes that were required for each of the holes, and the player with the lowest number of strokes is going to be the winner of the game of Duffers. What are the skills that you're working on here? Well, clearly you've got the mental math skills. You're adding and subtracting to get those 3-digit numbers all the way up to 630 is the largest number that we have here, but you can go even 50 yards above that. You might have to double your numbers. You might have to divide your numbers in half. So there's a little bit of ×2 or divided by 2. You're also planning ahead and budgeting. And those are executive functioning skills. Anytime you're working towards a future goal, and in this case, you're really thinking ahead to get these right numbers in your deck, you're thinking about the probability that you're going to draw those cards. Should I trash a card and get rid of it or not? So you really are using those executive functioning skills. You've got the golf theme, right? So that's a good theme. When your dad is a golfer, you're going to be interested maybe in the golf theme, but you're doing mental math, you're invoking working memory, and you're using the executive functioning skills. One of my favorite resources related to the executive functions is a planner, an agenda actually, that was created by the folks who literally wrote the book on executive functioning skills. The people at Smart But Scattered. I'll put a link in the show notes to the Smart But Scattered Work Smart Academic Planner. This is an agenda, but it also has an executive functioning quiz to help students to identify their strengths and weaknesses in the executive functioning areas. It also gives you checklists and worksheets for goal setting and project planning and studying for tests or exams. It gives you checklists for proofreading. It gives you strategies to take good notes, to reduce distractions, and to manage your time. So it's a great resource if you've got a student in high school or university who's trying to improve those executive functioning skills. And like I said, I'll put a link to the Smart But Scattered website in the show notes. And that is Duffers in a nutshell. Thanks so much to the designers for sending this one along. I really appreciated this game. We had some fun playing it. And if you have questions, if you have suggestions about this game, about executive functioning skills or working memory or mental math, you can leave them in the comments below this video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. BrainsOnGames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go, and the previous episodes are up there already. Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed, so we are all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me today, and hopefully I'll see you next time.